Hi, it's Maddie and Julia.
And this is Crash Course U.S. History.
Women's rights have been a highly controversial issue recently, with events like January's Women's March making headlines all over the world.
In the past 100 years, the women's rights movement has been led by countless strong female leaders whose work has made gender equality more and more of a reality.
When you think of advocates for the women's rights movement, who do you think of?
Maybe Carrie Chapman Catt, Michelle Obama, Gloria Steinem, or Margaret Sanger.
Well, you may be overlooking the profound influence Eleanor Roosevelt had on the cause of women's rights.
Here's a 4-minute crash course on why Eleanor Roosevelt had a significant impact on the course of U.S. history.
Eleanor Roosevelt expanded the role of women during her time as First Lady under FDR, as she expanded the political opportunity afforded to women, improved social conditions for women and children, and provided a new role model and leader for women outside the domestic sphere.
Eleanor Roosevelt's expansion of the role of the First Lady broke boundaries for women in politics and in the workforce and inspired future female endeavors to increase the role of women in politics and society. Starting with the New Deal, Eleanor Roosevelt began to expand the role of the First Lady to more than just a public figure, but an active member of her husband's administration. Eleanor Roosevelt first began increasing her role in 1921, when FDR suffered a polio attack, and she retained that important role in the White House for the 8 years she resided in it. Eleanor Roosevelt worked to expand help to unemployed women during the Great Depression as the New Deal reached more men than women through the creation of various New Deal programs. For example, she created She camps to target unemployed women and train them, which paralleled the CCC for unemployed men. Her camps benefited over 8,000 women during the Great Depression. Many Americans blamed working women for displacing male breadwinners during the Great Depression, but Eleanor Roosevelt defended women workers at her press conferences, in articles and speeches, and on the radio. Addressing the needs of women during the Great Depression not only legitimized women as integral members of the workforce, reinforcing the advancements of women outside the domestic sphere post-19th Amendment, but also directly improved the work opportunities afforded to women. By addressing women's unemployment needs, Eleanor Roosevelt opened new doors for women, which carried on into World War II when women were offered various new roles in society and in traditionally male jobs.
Eleanor Roosevelt expanded the political influence of women by holding press conferences where only women were permitted inside, which granted them first-hand access to political news. This advanced the careers of many women journalists and reporters by giving them an advantage over male reporters. Additionally, the press conferences encouraged women to become more active in the political scene and in sharing their opinions. Eleanor Roosevelt pressured her husband FDR to appoint more women to positions of political power, allowing for 219 women delegates and 302 women alternates to enter office. Women gained a larger part in the U.S. government and the political decision-making process, which allowed them to represent the rights of women even more. Additionally, the increase of women political figures acted as a strong role model for all women in the U.S. Eleanor Roosevelt transformed the role of First Lady from a social hostess to that of an active reformer in the expansion of both political and social rights of women. She encouraged women to become more outspoken and devoted herself to gaining equal opportunities for women in the political scene.
Following her departure from the White House, Roosevelt served on the UN twice, under both Truman and JFK, and during her time as a delegate, she focused on expanding women's rights internationally. She chaired the UN Human Rights Commission and also chaired JFK's Commission on the Status of Women for many years. Eleanor Roosevelt serving on the UN provided a role model for American women by showing the world a powerful, strong woman with influence in world and domestic affairs. Roosevelt's involvement in the UN expanded her influence from domestic to international, providing global opportunity for women in the future. Roosevelt's expansion of international democracy through her work with the UN is evidence of her persistent and active role in politics. Following her time as First Lady, she continued to break boundaries and expand the role of women leaders, opening new opportunities for future advancements in women's rights and their role in politics and government.
Eleanor Roosevelt was named the most significant First Lady and the most influential American woman of the 20th century.
She recognized the qualities women had that made them mothers and peacemakers, but acknowledged that those same qualities made them politicians, professionals, and leaders.
Overall, Eleanor Roosevelt's expansion of the role of First Lady and advancement of women's rights had a significant impact on the course of U.S. history.
By providing women all over the world with a strong female role model and breaking gender boundaries in the political sphere, she created an opportunity for political and economic advancement for women in the future.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Crash Course is produced and directed by Maddie and Julia, and the show is inspired by our high school history teacher, Mr. Van Leeuwen.